All right, welcome into One of One Sports. We're today continuing our NBA draft coverage. Last video we did was previewing my top point guards of the class, and today we're doing the same thing but for shooting guards. So once again, there's going to be 9 players we're evaluating and getting started. Shout out to Chaz Lanier and John Tonji, who just barely didn't make the cut. And we get into it with at number 9, Kobe Bryant. But before we break it down, make sure to leave a like on the video and hit that subscribe button. So Kobe Bryant is a 6'6" shooting guard out of Kentucky, and in my opinion, he is the best shooter in this class. He is elite off-ball movement, and as you can see, at 6'6", he's got really good size for the position. Now, he's not a playmaker. He's not going to create for others. He's not really going to create for himself. Those are weaknesses. Defense, I think, has a chance to be serviceable, and that's really the X factor for how successful he'll be in the NBA, in my opinion. Because if his defense is bad, he can be like a Duncan Robinson type of player where you are one of the best three-point shooters in the league, and you can come in and space the floor, but you're never going to be a starter because you can't defend well enough and you don't create enough offensively. But if you can be, and you also might be cut from rotations because of that. But if you're like just an average defender and elite shooter, there's definitely a role for you on a good team. Think like Sam Hauser on the Celtics. He's a decent defender, comes in, hits his threes. Kobe Bryant has the potential to be that kind of player, and he's an even better off-ball movement than a guy like Sam Hauser, or has even better off-ball movement. So I really like Kobe Bryant. I think a team that could use him is a team like the Magic. You have good defenders around him, and you could really just use a guy that can come off the bench for 10 minutes a game and just hit open threes created from guys like Paolo, Franz Wagner, that kind of thing. So I like Kobe Bryant here at 9. At 8, I like Miles Byrd, a 6'5" guard from San Diego State, and he has really good defensive instincts and a really long wingspan. And that he at least projects to be an elite defender at the next level. And his playmaking is also really good if he's going to play the shooting guard position, which I expect him to. Some weaknesses here: he's not the strongest guy, so sometimes his frame can limit his defensive impact. But I expect him to get stronger. The shot, he's confident in it, but it's inconsistent right now, and you need that to be better. And then he gambles a lot defensively, goes for steals, which sometimes leads to a fast break, but sometimes just leads to you getting beat. So I think Miles Byrd, he's only a sophomore, so Kobe Bryant is a guy who is an older prospect, played 4 or 5 years of college. Miles Byrd, though, this is only his 3rd year, one of which he didn't even play. It was a red shirt. So he has a bit more upside than a guy like Kobe Bryant. And even if the shot's not as good, you believe it can get to a really good level. You definitely think he's going to be an impactful defender, and he can just all around do more, which leads to him coming in above Kobe Bryant. If I had to give like a comparison for who Miles Byrd could be, I think you would hope that he's something like, I would say Drew Holiday is a different type of defender. So I'd maybe like a bigger Cason Wallace is what you're hoping for. But yeah, someone like just one of those impactful defensive two guards who has a little bit of stuff he can do creating as well. Now at number 7, I have Sion James out of Duke. Now I don't think he's going to go first round, but if I were a team late first round, I would certainly consider it. This is a guy, he's got really good size, 6'5". He's really strong. He's a really good defender. He's got length and the strength. He's really good shuffling his feet, lateral quickness, and he's a good playmaker, good ball handler, and he showed he's a really good athlete. He's a really, really well-rounded prospect. I like him a lot. And he's kind of similar to his teammate Tyrese Proctor, who I said was underrated in the last video. And I just think his ability, he's going to be either a 2 or a 3 in this league. I would say a 2 because of size, but I think because of his strength and length, he'll be able to guard 1s, 2s, and 3s really effectively. He'll give you secondary ball handling, and he shot over 40% from 3 in college. So he's your classic 3-and-D guard that, like, if he maxes out, yeah, maybe he's something like Drew Holiday or Derek White, the Celtics. Those are like, the top tier guys that do this kind of thing. But even if he's not that, he could be, like a better or something like a bigger Davion Mitchell where you're really good defensively and can shoot it and you're still a valuable piece. Now, he's an older prospect as well. He played all 4 years. He doesn't have a lot of upside. He's not created shots, but that's why I'm not saying he should go in the lottery, but late first round, early second round, this can be a guy who can help a good team and just fill the role player roles you need. He has so many of those qualities. I like Sion James a lot. And then Cedric Howard's a guy I don't even have that much of an opinion on. He's really just popped recently at the combine. And his story is crazy. 2 years ago, he's at Eastern Washington. He transfers to Washington State, plays 5 games, then gets injured. And now at the combine, he's potentially played himself into a lottery pick just from the combine. So he's got 6'5", but he's got almost a 7'3" wingspan. So the frame is just absurd and is really a big reason the scouts view him so highly. He's also an elite athlete, had one of the highest verticals at the combine, was pretty quick as well. And then his shot looks pretty good. He shot it really well at the combine. Now, he's unproven. Like I said, he only played 5 games at Washington State. One was against Power 5 competition at Iowa, and that was easily the worst game he played. He only scored like 5 points. And then health, he's been injured a couple times, but it doesn't seem to be a big thing. Seems just coincidental. And overall, it looks like he has tremendous talent and looks like the type of guy that fits in the NBA. He has the build, all the tools, but I just haven't seen it enough to move him any higher. It's kind of, and like he has more potential easily than Sion James, but Sion James just more of like a proven commodity and still possesses a lot of qualities that I do like. I slightly lean Cedric Coward just because of how good he was at the combine. But yeah, I don't have like enough of a sample size to be really confident in it. Now we get into the top 5 where I'll do individual player breakdowns, starting with Jace Richardson, who I think most people will have higher than number 5. But for me, they're just the weaknesses are just too big on a player like this because I see the strengths. He's maybe the most efficient player in this class. Reminds you a lot of Reed Sheppard last year, a guy I also was way lower on than general consensus and still am. I think there's still people really like Reed Sheppard. I just don't see it, but different video there. And then the shot creation stuff is really, really, really good. And especially came on the second half of the year when Michigan State gave him more opportunity. But yeah, if you put him in one-on-one situations, he can create step-back jumpers. He can get by his defender, and he could be a really good scorer. But the weakness is here. He's under 6'1" without shoes, and he's not a playmaker. So I just don't see how this is like what his role is at the next level because you can't play the point guard position if you're not going to be a good playmaker, which there's like maybe you think he develops because there's a guy, I'm not sure if all you guys have heard of him, but Cam Jones. I talked about him last video. If you want to see the scouting report, he was like my 8th or 9th point guard, right? He started out as Marquette as a 2 guard playing off Tyler Coley, and now as a senior, he's proven he's a really good playmaker. So, you hope Jace Richardson can grow into that. But if you're also looking at Jace Richardson, so he did no really playmaking at Michigan State. And even if you go back to high school, which I know not everyone watched play at high school, but he played alongside Cam Boozer, Caden Boozer, who are going to be top picks soon. And there was never really any pressure on him to be a playmaker then. So there's just no evidence for me to think that suddenly at the NBA, he's going to become a really good playmaker. So he's got to be a 2 guard. But if you're at 6 foot to 6'1" 2 guard, you're gonna be so much of a defensive liability unless your point guard is like a stud defender. So that's why I think there are fits for him, but I think the size and playmaking as weaknesses just limit how high I can put him. Questions, I obviously have big questions about his defense I just went into. And then the quickness is just so like how much of a shot creator can he be? Because I know he has the ability to get his shot off, but if he's also going to have really good quickness getting by guys, then that takes it to another level. So I think ideally for Jace Richardson, you'd want to play next to like a playmaking point guard who's really good defensively. Someone like if I know Anthony Black's not a starter, but he kind of fits that. Dyson Daniels, who else would fit? Oh man, this is tough. Or like go into a role like Orlando, like Houston, where there's a bunch of good defenders around you, and you have other forwards who can do the playmaking. Somewhere where your defensive stuff is covered, and you don't have to be the playmaker, so you're really just a floor spacer and shot creator. Is really what you need. So that's why it limits him because I just think he needs such a specific spot to be truly successful in this league. And I don't really have Reed Sheppard would be the comp, but Reed Sheppard even had a little bit more playmaking to him. So Jace Richardson, just something I have too many questions about to put higher than 5. Now, that sounded really negative, but I just want to emphasize, the potential is still there. He has so much shot creating ability that if you think there's any chance he become a good playmaker, then he's worth the swing. He's still a first round talent. I just want to, because he's going to be lower on my board than a lot of other people's, I just had to really emphasize why I'm doing that because most people I think have him higher. I've seen people have him as like a top 10 prospect. I just don't have that. So yeah, this guy would dive into that. Next up, Neek Clifford, for example, I'm not sure how many people are going to have Nick Clifford above Jace Richardson. But his strengths, he's super well rounded. Outside of Cooper Flag, probably the most well rounded prospect in this draft in terms of he can handle the ball a little bit, he can shoot it a little bit, he's going to defend, he's going to rebound. Just anything you need him to do, he can do it. Super well rounded prospect. And then specifically rebounding at the guard position to average nearly 10 rebounds in a game. Super impressive, kind of like Josh Hart esque in that department. Weaknesses, he's an older prospect. He stayed all 4 years college, and then he played in the Mountain West, which isn't the best college competition, but it is still decent. But because he's so well rounded, there's not really many weaknesses to put. So I went with competition level. The questions for me are how good of a defender can he be? Because in the Mountain West, you look like a really good defender, but I don't know if that scales to the NBA. Like, I don't think he's going to be a bad defender by any means, but is he going to be, is he just going to be average? Because I think for him, because he's like kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, you really need to be at least above average in a lot of these departments. I know rebounding is going to be that, but like between shooting, which my other question, defense, and playmaking, something else needs to jump off besides rebounding, which right now I think the playmaking is just going to be fine for a shooting guard, maybe slightly above average. I think the shooting is about average, and I think the real thing that can jump out is he can be a really impactful defender. So that's my big question for him. And I think he's going to be a really good role player in the NBA in terms of whatever you need him to do, he's going to do it. And yeah, I already said Josh Hart's kind of a good comparison for him there. But yeah, just Swiss Army knife type player that really, I don't like, there's no specific fit he needs, unlike a Jace Richardson. He can really just fit anywhere because there's so many different things he can do. Next up, Kon Knueppel, who for a long time I thought was going to be a small forward. Combine happens. He measures in at 6'5", a little shorter than I thought he was going to. The wingspan's not there, and it really just makes him clearly a two-guard prospect. But the strengths are still the strengths. And I said I think Kobe Brea is the best shooter in this class. If there was anyone I would pick against him, it's Kon Knueppel, who I have at number 2 in the class as a shooter. And yeah, like Kobe Brea, he can do it off the dribble, even though you don't see a ton of it. He can definitely do it off the catch, and he can do it moving around, catch and shoot, like off-ball stuff instead of just spot-up shooting. But yeah, elite three-point shooter. Really good mid-range shooter as well when he creates. But obviously you can see the weaknesses. He's not the best shot creator out there. And then the playmaking stuff, I think he has really good vision, and you really saw it when Cooper Flag got hurt, missed the ACC tournament. Kon Knueppel did such a good job running the offense, setting up teammates. Now, weaknesses, you got to talk outside of just not having the long wingspan. He's also doesn't appear to be the most athletic guy. Now, he didn't really do combine testing because of an injury, but watching him at Duke, you have questions, at least I have questions about the foot speed and explosiveness, and that can really limit him in 2 ways. It limits his shot creation because he can't, maybe not going to be able to blow by guys, get to the rim, and separate to create his own shot at times. And you can maybe press him more. And then also like sliding his feet and being a good defender, because at Duke, he was a fine defender. But when you scale up the athletes and you have these really quick guys, I don't know how well he can defend those. And it seems like a weakness to me. And then the handle, I think it's fine, but there are questions because I think the vision is clearly there. But if he's not going to be the most explosive guy, you got to have a tight handle when teams are going to play up on you. I still believe in him there. And I think his comp, like, low end is like Corey Kispert, where you're more of just a shooter. But I think there's some potential there to add on a little bit of playmaking layers. And there's a decent chance that never comes about, but there's enough there where I think there's more upside than people might talk about with Kon Knueppel, because I think he's still a really talented guy, probably a top 8 prospect in this draft just because of the shooting. And then there's enough upside outside of that. I really like Kon Knueppel. Moving to the top 2, we have Trey Johnson from Texas. And yeah, I mean, there's really no doubts about what his strengths are. It's shot creation, it's shooting, and just all around scoring. He's a bucket, the best scorer in this draft class, in my opinion, just pure scorer. And the weaknesses are kind of what you would expect from a player of this archetype as well. He's not a bad passer, right? He's good passing ability in terms of like accurate passes when he sees it. But I think the vision at time lacks, and he has some of that tunnel vision you see from guys who can be tend to be like more pure scorers. And then strength, I think it's sometimes his thin frame can like limit his rim finishing a little bit. The questions for him, I think, are defensively, and that really will determine his ceiling as well as off-ball ability. I'd compare him to like a Jordan Clarkson, maybe Malik Monk, CJ McCollum type players. These guys who, yeah, they have elite scoring, but what else can you do? And that's really the question here, because I don't see enough playmaking chops to be like a high end, or that sounds redundant, but because if you're going to be a starter doing the things he does, you can't just be a scorer. So you either have to be really good off ball, where you're just such a threat that way, or you have to be like this two-way guy who's impacting the game defensively and scoring, or you have to play make as well. I don't see the playmaking, but I think off ball and defense could be it. He has the requisite athleticism to be a really good defender, and times he is a really good off ball guy. But I don't know if I see enough of it to think one of those will be like star level. So right now, I think he's just a really good scorer, and to me, projects as like a six-man type of microwave scorer who's going to be in races and probably like could be a six-man of the year type player. Like that's what I see in Trey Johnson. I'm talking Lou Williams, Malik Monk, Jordan Clarkson, like just bona fide buckets off the bench. That's what I see. So I don't see like superstar upside with him, but I do see like at worst, like I don't see any way he's not at least a 15 point per game scorer in the NBA. He's just too talented of a shot creator and shot maker. And he definitely is an argument to be the best shooting guard in this class. But number one is VJ Edgecombe, who is a better athlete than Trey Johnson. Now, Trey Johnson's a good athlete, but VJ Edgecombe is elite, arguably the best athlete in this class, probably top three. And then his first step is just deadly. He seems to be able to just blow by guys effortlessly. It's so quick. And like the stop to go is incredible. And then weaknesses, though, the handle sometimes limits him because he is so fast, and sometimes the handle isn't quite up to par to move the way he's moving. And then strength-wise, like Trey Johnson, at times can impact his rim finishing. But these are young guys, 18, 19. I don't worry about it too much. I think they will get stronger. I have questions about how good is he going to be as a defender, because Trey Johnson, like there's a chance he's just not good defensively. I think he'll probably be average. VJ Edgecombe is at worst average, potentially elite. But like in terms of how well he moves laterally, like moving his feet side to side, his recovery time, the speed there, decent length, good size, 6'4". Like I think he's going to be a good defender. But at 6'4", like are you going to be able to defend threes as well? Are you just defending twos? Can you be good enough to defend ones as well? Are you going to get strong enough where you can defend bigger guys and smaller guys? So it's really, can you be an elite two-way player? I'm talking like all NBA or all defensive team, type of defender. The potential is there. And then the shot, it's going to be average at least, but can you become, like we saw Anthony Edwards take, like Anthony Edwards' leap was insane to just like arguably top 5 shooter in the league. I'm not saying VJ Edgecombe can be that, but can you get from like average to good, or maybe even really good? Because that's where you see the star potential, a guy like VJ Edgecombe. Because right now, I think he's incredibly safe as a prospect. He's going to be a good defender, a decent shooter, and he's going to be able to get to the rim enough. So at the very worst, he's a really good role player. But you see the upside as well in terms of he could be an elite defender. He could have elite ability to get to the rim and could be a really good shooter. So like high end, like Anthony Edwards light, but at worst like KCP with hops kind of thing. So like I think he blends what you want in terms of safeness as a prospect with upside. Maybe Victor Oladipo is a good comparison for VJ Edgecombe, and I think he's going to be a really good player in this league, and that's why he is my number one shooting guard prospect. If you guys made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you watching. Make sure to leave your comments below on your thoughts. Who are your top prospects? Make sure to leave a like, do me a huge favor, and subscribe. Until next time.